Yo, what's up, guys? So today we are reacting to his story part 3, and let's get into the video.
My math teacher's exam policy said one calculator, no restrictions, so I showed up to the final with a desktop computer on a rolling cart. I had to tilt the monitor sideways just to fit it through the door. My teacher set down his coffee and walked over before I even sat down. "What is that?" "My calculator." He looked at the monitor, then at the 3 programs already running on screen. "That is not a calculator." I turned the monitor toward him. "It runs calculator software, and your policy says one calculator, no restrictions." He walked back to his desk and picked up the policy sheet. He held it up next to the computer like comparing the two would prove something. 5 words on one side, a full desktop on the other. The intent of the policy clearly. The policy says no restrictions. He flipped the sheet over, hoping for more on the back. There wasn't. It's the size of a microwave. Nothing in the policy about size. Just think of it as one big calculator. He turned to the class like someone might back him up. Nobody said a word. A kid in the front row was biting his fist, trying not to laugh. He looked down at those 5 words one more time and sat down. "Just take the exam." I finished before everyone else because while they punched numbers one at a time, I had 3 programs running side by side. I powered down the desktop, loaded it back on the cart, and wheeled it out. My teacher watched me go without blinking. The next exam's calculator policy was a full page long. First line said, "Must be handheld." I showed up with a tablet running 6. I was 5 minutes from home when I accidentally dropped my mom's phone on the sidewalk and completely shattered the screen. I stared in horror. She'd let me borrow it for school that morning, but only after making me swear on my life. She said, "Do not break this. This case is foolproof, so there's no excuse." Now there was a giant spiderweb crack right in the middle. I panicked and pressed my thumb on the glass to push it together, but the crack just spread wider. I had to fix this before I I speed walked home, praying my mom wasn't there yet. I slipped through the door. "Mom?" Nothing. She wasn't home. I ran to the bathroom and remembered a video that said toothpaste fixes cracked screens, so I squeezed a huge glob on and rubbed it into the cracks. But when I wiped it off, it looked 10 times worse. White gunk smeared into every crack and even got into the charging port. I felt lightheaded and decided the only way was to get it fixed professionally. So I sprinted to the phone repair store down the street. The guy behind the counter picked it up and barely looked at it. $200. My heart sank. I'm 10. I emptied my pockets, but I had $6 and gum. "Isn't there anything cheaper?" He wouldn't budge. I felt defeated, holding the cracked phone, with no idea what to do. And the second I stepped outside the store, I heard a car horn. I looked up. It was my mom, parked right in front of the store, staring straight at me. I got in the car, and she asked why I was at the phone repair store. I immediately burst into tears. "I dropped your phone and the screen shattered. I tried everything. Please don't kill me." My mom took the phone from my shaking hands. She said nothing, which felt worse. But then she peeled the screen protector off. Underneath, the screen was perfectly fine. The whole time, I'd only cracked the protector. I drop it all the time. "Why do you think I have a foolproof phone case?" For a second, I felt pure relief. But then she tried to turn it on to charge it, and nothing happened. A glob of toothpaste oozed out of the charging port. Her face went flat. She handed the dead phone back to me. "You're not getting a phone until college." I told my son's school exactly who I was on career day, and they stared in horror. "Please don't go, Dad. You're a garbage man. You'll embarrass me." My son Liam covered his face. "I'll be bullied forever." I ruffled his hair and replied, "That won't happen, son. Anyone who will say anything is just insecure. Trust me." I walked into Liam's classroom the next morning in a suit I got from Walmart. Liam sat in the back trying not to look at me, and it made me sad to see how embarrassed he was of me. The other parents introduced themselves as accountants, therapists, and someone even said heart surgeon. But when I proudly said, "I'm a garbage man," only one kid laughed. That kid was Liam. He pointed his finger at me and said, "Whose dad is that, collecting bins for a living?" His classmates stared at him, then back at me, and my face went beet red. My own son was humiliating me and pretending he didn't know me. I looked at Liam and widened my eyes, signaling for him to stop, but he leaned back in his chair and shouted, "Why are you staring at me like that, garbage boy? I'm not a trash can." He looked around the room with a smug grin, trying to get a reaction, and shouted, "Whose dad is this LMAO? I bet it's yours, Ryan. I'll leave some of my trash on the road for him next Tuesday." Nobody replied to him, so he crumpled a piece of paper and threw it at me. "Pick it up, Walmart suit. My dad said he wants this place clear." Liam started laughing to himself, clutching his stomach and loudly repeating, "He empties dumpsters for a living, guys. Isn't that hilarious?" Tears of laughter were rolling down his cheeks, while I stood there more embarrassed than I'd ever been. But when I looked around, nobody was laughing. They were staring at Liam in disgust, and when Liam went to throw another piece of paper at me, the boy next to him gripped Liam's arm. His face was serious. "Liam, isn't that that your dad?" Liam stopped laughing immediately, and his mouth twisted in horror. "That's not my dad." "Yes, it is," the boy interrupted him. "We know it is," another girl added. His crush stood up. "Why would you do that to your own dad, Liam? You disgust me." His face crumpled and he started tearing up, and I watched speechless as 20 kids all defended me. Liam looked at me for help, but I just shrugged and let them tear into him. They made him say, "I'm sorry, Dad," aloud, and afterwards listened intently when I talked about being a garbage man. Liam sat in silence with tear stains on his shirt, too embarrassed to speak another word. I threw a note to my crush in 6th period, and Mr. Pelletier snatched it out of the air mid-flight. The whole class went, "Ooh." Mr. Pelletier held the paper ball between 2 fingers like a dead bug and walked it back to his desk. My brother leaned forward from the row behind me, grinning. "What's it say, Romeo?" I turned around. "Shut up and focus on your work before you flunk again." He put his hands up and went back to doodling. Mr. Pelletier sat down and started unfolding it, clearing his throat as he got ready to read. "I think you're the prettiest girl in 8th grade." The class exploded. My crush turned the color of a tomato and sank into her chair. Mr. Pelletier flipped the page around and showed everyone a stick figure wedding I'd drawn with hearts orbiting our heads. People were on the floor. "Don't tell my brother because he likes you too." My brother shot up out of his chair so hard it tipped backward. "What?" Mr. Pelletier smirked at him and kept reading. He sat back down, ripped a sheet from his notebook, scribbled something fast, balled it up, and chucked it across the room. It bounced off Mr. Pelletier's forehead. The whole class froze. Mr. Pelletier picked it up off his desk, unfolded it, and his face changed. He folded it back, set it down, and dismissed class 15 minutes early. The class poured out into the hallway. I grabbed the note off Mr. Pelletier's desk on the way past and caught up to my crush at the lockers. I held it out. "You didn't get to read the last line." She took it just as my brother walked up. I told him he needs to shower. He's been wearing the same coffee-stained shirt for 5 days. I turned and looked back through the classroom door. There was a coffee stain going down the front of Mr. Pelletier's shirt. My brother slapped my shoulder. "I'll leave you two lovebirds alone." She unfolded the note and read it. "Will you be my girlfriend?" Her face stayed soft. She folded it back up, tucked it in her pocket, and kissed me on the cheek. Yes, I will." She reached for my hand, and we walked toward our next class together. I loaded Call of Duty on the PS5, while the rest of the boys grabbed controllers and dropped in front of the flat screen. Jeff slid 4 pizza boxes onto the coffee table. Pete raised his controller. "Sunrise or bust, boys." Tony tossed his phone face down on the table. I popped a Tums and grabbed a slice of pizza. Yeah, just like the old days. We hadn't pulled an all-nighter in 20 years, and tonight we were going till sunrise. But unlike the old days, 10 minutes after that first slice, my chest lit up like I'd swallowed a road flare. I sprinted upstairs for more Tums while Pete yelled, "You good, bro?" without pausing the game. When I came back down, Jeff was standing up for another slice, and his back gave out halfway. He crashed, making a noise I'd only heard my dad make. "Just give me a minute. Just give me 1 minute." He didn't get up. One down. Tony's phone buzzed, and he picked it up. It was his boss. "If I get the deck done by morning, there's a bonus." He opened his laptop next to his controller. "Boys, I'll multitask. This is fine." 20 minutes later, his face was flat on the keyboard, snoring into a long stream of Q. 2 down. That's when we heard footsteps coming down the stairs. My wife appeared in her robe. "It is 9:15. You are screaming. The kids have school tomorrow." Same voice my mom used in 10th grade. We all whispered sorry like we were 14. She went back upstairs. Pete was the only one still playing. Then his head dipped sideways. He was snoring with the controller in his hand while his character ran into a wall on a loop. 3 down. I closed my eyes too. I jolted awake to my wife standing over us holding a blanket. She didn't say a word. She tucked Pete in like the kids upstairs, picked up the half-eaten pizza, turned off the TV, and walked back to bed. The clock said 10:49. In high school, we used to do this till sunrise. Now at 45, we didn't even make it to 11. My mom yanked my Game Boy mid-Pokemon battle and said I wasn't getting it back until report cards. She buried it in her closet under a stack of sweaters, but I peeked through the hallway and saw exactly where it went. 3 nights later, I waited for her snoring to shake the walls, crept across the hall, and slid it out. Back under my blanket, I popped in fresh AAs. My Charizard was level 47, and I was 1 route away from the Elite Four, the final 4 bosses standing between me and beating the whole game. I grinded on Victory Road for an hour, sweating under covers I couldn't kick off. The hallway floor creaked. I shoved the Game Boy under my blanket and held my breath until the silence settled back in. By 1 a.m., I walked into the Indigo Plateau, where the Elite Four were waiting. Lorelei, the first, fell in 3 turns. Bruno took my Lapras down with him before I dropped him next, 2 of the 4 already gone. Then footsteps came down the hallway, straight toward my door. I jammed the Game Boy under my pillow, rolled over, and squeezed my eyes shut. The door cracked open. Mom stood there for what felt like 10 years before easing it shut. I waited for her snoring to kick back in, then slid the Game Boy out and kept going. Agatha brought me down to my last Pokemon, hands shaking, until I landed a critical hit with 4 HP left. Lance was the last of the 4. He took out everyone but my Charizard before I finished him, and the screen started dimming. The battery icon flashed in the corner, but I told myself myself it would last. The champion appeared, my rival, the kid I'd been racing since Pallet Town. He was the last thing standing between me and the end of the game. We were both down to one Pokemon, and I tapped Fire Blast. Critical hit. The screen went white, and the game said, "You did it." I bit my pillow so I wouldn't scream. The Hall of Fame music played quiet and tinny. Each Pokemon scrolled across the screen. The save screen came up, and I tapped, "Yes, saving. Don't turn off the power." I couldn't hold it in. I jumped to my feet on the mattress, fists in the air, bouncing in silent celebration. The screen flickered. I froze mid-bounce. It went black. I shook the Game Boy, pressed every button, popped the battery cover. Both AAs were drained. The last save was from before I walked in. 6 hours of grinding. The Elite Four. The champion. As far as the game knew, none of it happened. A mother called 911 on me for watching kids at the playground, not knowing I controlled her custody fate. The woman cornered me while the other mothers watched, insisting men only showed up here on weekdays when they had custody battles to win, completely unaware that I was the psychologist who evaluated parents for those exact battles. The woman pulled her daughter away when my niece tried to play with her. When I explained I was watching my niece, her mouth tightened into a thin line. My ex-husband used to pretend to care about our daughter too. Suddenly, I remembered her as a woman who had an evaluation appointment with me later that week. She tilted her head. "Are you going through a divorce too? Since you're playing uncle instead of being at work like a normal man." "Some of us take time off for family," I said quietly, but she scoffed. "Do you have photos of children on your phone, Mr. Uncle?" She ripped my phone out of my pocket. Then she marched over to a group of playing children, her voice carrying as she pointed at me. "If he tries to talk to you, you run to your mommies. Understand?" she instructed. And my stomach twisted as my niece's new friends backed away from her. My niece ran to me sobbing, and the woman grabbed her arm and yanked her backward off her feet, knocking the wind out of her. "It's okay, sweetie. Mr. Uncle won't be allowed near you anymore," she said with a fake, gentle smile. My niece reached desperately for me while my legs turned to water, her small fingers clawing at the air between us as the woman dragged her further away. "Let her go," I said. "You're hurting her." Her face lit up with triumph as she released my niece and rushed at me, shoving me back against the fence, the chain link digging into my spine as she pinned me there with her forearm across my throat. "He tried to lure a little girl into the bathroom, officer," she said into my phone while I struggled to breathe. "He's getting aggressive now. Please hurry." The police arrived, and the officer recognized me immediately. "Dr. James?" he asked, and the woman's grip loosened as he explained to the crowd that I wrote recommendations for every custody battle in the district. The color drained from her face. She stumbled backward, grabbing my arm, repeating her case number while trying to help bandage my niece's knee, insisting her vigilance today showed she deserved full custody. "I'll see you Thursday," I said, "for your evaluation." I walked into my grandpa's nursing home and saw his cane across the room while two attendants stood over him laughing. Grandpa was on his knees reaching for it when the tall attendant slid it farther with his foot. "Try again, Gramps." I ran over and helped Grandpa to his feet. The tall attendant smirked as he walked off. "Lucky your grandson came to save you, Gramps." I handed Grandpa his cane. The next morning, I signed him up at my jiu-jitsu gym and bought him a GI. Next time they came for him, he'd be ready. First class, he tried the basic hip throw and went down so hard he bounced. He sat up laughing, and so did I. A month in, he swept my leg in sparring, and we both lost it. We started staying an extra hour after class to drill, just the two of us. One night, my coach pulled me aside. "Your grandpa's been coming in at 6 in the morning, just him and a dummy, drilling wrist locks." On the drive home, Grandpa stared out the window. "If a man grabs me, like a real grab, what do? I showed him in the parking lot, and he repeated it 10 times before getting out. Saturday, I drove back to pick him up for class. I walked in, and the tall attendant was right up in Grandpa's face. "Your grandson isn't coming to save you this time, Gramps." He reached for Grandpa's collar. I sprinted to take the guy down before he could touch Grandpa, but Grandpa beat me to it. He caught the wrist, twisted, and the attendant folded forward, yelping. Grandpa grabbed his shirt with the other hand and slammed him flat on the floor. "Grandpa, when did you get so good?" Grandpa straightened up and dusted off his hands. "I didn't want you to have to save me again, kid." He picked up his cane, hooked his arm through mine, and we walked out to class. I collected all my 4th graders' tests, but when I looked at them, I nearly fell from my chair. A kid named Sam had spelled his own name wrong. He'd written 10 as his answer for 4 + 5, and wrote "Destor" for "Where does honey come from?" I glanced up and saw Saw hunched over his phone scrolling, the neon and blue screen lights keeping him in what looked like a trance, and immediately knew what the problem was. I asked Sam to stay back, but when the bell rang, he stayed slumped over his phone, watching Skibidi videos. I asked him to put it away, and he angrily set it down. "You happy now?" I started talking, but he only lasted a second before his hand started flicking 6-7 in the air. I turned my laptop around and showed him his test scores, nothing more than 10% the entire year. "Do you understand what this means?" Sam leaned forward, squinted at the screen, then sounded out "year" as "ye-are," and gave up halfway. "I don't know what you're showing me." I gripped my head in shock and quickly wrote "cat" on the whiteboard. "Can you read this, Sam?" Sam looked at it. "Ku." He paused. "Ku." My chest tightened. This was a word my 3-year-old could read. Sam gave up on the letter T and immediately picked his phone back up. He shoved the screen at my face, showing me some AI shark with sneakers. Tralalero tralala, he shrieked repeatedly. I picked up my phone and called his parents because I was genuinely worried. His mom and dad walked through my door 20 minutes later, both staring down at their phones. They sat in the chairs across from me without looking up from their screens. My stomach sank, but I told them Sam was struggling and that this was serious. I held up his test and pointed at his own name spelled wrong at the top. He can't spell his own name, but the mom didn't even glance at the paper. She turned to her husband and showed him a funny video on her phone, and they both laughed before going back to scrolling. They hadn't heard a word I said. Sam sat in the chair beside them on his own phone, 3 heads bent over 3 screens. I realized Sam was never the problem. He was just the result of parents that failed him. I climbed into my bed with a grin, feeling my jeans press against the duvet covers. My dad came over and leaned against my door. "I'm sorry I said no to you going to the party, son, but I know the kids there. It's too dangerous." He walked back to his room, and I instantly got up from the covers. I laced up my Jordans and climbed out my window the second I heard snoring. I walked into that party and was immediately surrounded by college kids twice my size. I grabbed a red cup and filled it with juice to fit in, then pulled out my phone to take pictures so I could show everyone how cool I was. Then I heard yelling in the backyard. I walked over with loose legs to seem nonchalant and saw 2 people punching each other. I put my hands up and yelled, "Fight," like everyone else, but then a gunshot rang out, then another one. The music stopped and everyone started running. I got knocked to the floor and dozens of feet instantly stampeded me, stepping on my head, my fingers and my legs. My red cup spilled and ruined my Jordans as more gunshots echoed around me. I laid on the floor, afraid I was going to die, when I spotted a bathroom. I crawled into it and shut the door quietly as I could, but another gunshot sounded out just outside. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I snuck out to the party. There's someone here shooting and I'm hiding in a bathroom. Please help." I instantly heard him running and grabbing his car keys. "I'm coming right now." He hung up and I pressed my knees to my chest, listening to the sound of reloading outside. Then headlights swung through the window. Dad was running barefoot into the house in his pajamas. I heard him scream my name, but then a gunshot cracked outside. Something dropped and my whole body locked up. I went to scream "Dad," but I caught myself, and suddenly the handle started rattling. I curled up into a ball, arms over my head, thinking this was it. But then Dad opened the door. Blood dripped from the bullet wound in his arm, but he just pulled me to my feet. We walked past the attacker, who was now laying on the floor, and when we got in the car, he peeled out, driving one-handed in total silence. The bullet stayed lodged in his injured arm. I looked at him, not saying a word, and just broke. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." But he just kept his eyes on the road. "It's okay, kid. You still called me, even when you knew I'd told you no. That means more to me than you could ever know." He pulled into my favorite diner. "I'll always come get you, no matter what."
If y'all want a part 4 of his story, then make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.